Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome to a different sort of video. So today we are going to be filling out our bracket and giving our predictions for the NHL playoffs, since that literally starts next week. And I'm also going to probably create a league so you guys can compete against my scores and stuff like that. Link will be in the description to that, or I could tell you guys what to search once I actually create that. But anyways, let's get into my thoughts on who's going to win each of these series. So we'll start from top to bottom on the East, just because I am a Sens fan, so I've seen these teams more often than the Western teams. Boston versus Florida. Let's take a look at this stat thing. I do think Boston obviously wins this based on how good of a season they had, so I'm probably going to go with my gut feeling on that. Even though Florida, they have some really underrated players, some really good goal scorers. Like Verhaeghe had like 40 goals this year, if I'm not mistaken. If we look at the differences, obviously there's a big point gap because Boston was such a great team this year. Goals per game, though, that's actually pretty close, but Boston has it in their favor. Boston's much better defensively, though. Yeah, I don't really like the defensive play from Florida. That's the big if. Like, Bobrovsky would have to step up, or Alex Lyon. And Alex Lyon, I don't think he has really any playoff experience. The only playoff experience he has is in the AHL, like I think. If I'm not mistaken, he was the starting goaltender for the Chicago Wolves when they won the Calder Cup, or maybe it was the Charlotte Checkers. I don't remember exactly. It was when he was with Carolina's AHL affiliate. But yeah, I don't really trust Alex Lyon on either, even though he has been good. Power play percentage-wise, Florida has a little bit better power play, but a way worse penalty kill. Yeah, I got to go with Boston. I mean, it's an easy, safe pick, I think, in that one. But Florida, if they pull off the upset, that would be really an interesting one. So I'm going to say Boston wins that series. Then we have Toronto and Tampa. Now, this is probably going to be the most interesting one to you guys. Now, most of the time, I would obviously choose Tampa, and I do think Tampa is definitely still built to win the Stanley Cup this year. However, I do not see them beating Toronto this year in the first round. Reason being is I feel like they're kind of deflating in a sense. Like, they haven't been as good as they were like last year and the year before, obviously, like, because they're losing players in their depth. So, example, like, they lost Andre Palat. Their defensive core is getting like guys like Nick Perbix into the lineup, and I feel like they're definitely starting to like dwindle a little bit, kind of like what happened with like Pittsburgh this year, for example, but a lot faster. So I feel like Toronto is gonna win this series. I'm gonna probably go with my gut feeling on that. Being a Sens fan, it's weird saying that Toronto is gonna win the series, but honestly, Tampa could easily win it too. So I don't really know what's gonna happen with this series. I feel like it's probably gonna go to 7 games, but I feel like the Leafs might actually end up winning the series, which is weird. But let's take a look at this matchup analysis. So both are really close point-wise, of course. Goals per game, Tampa has a little bit more, but Toronto was the better defensive team. Probably the goals against is high up, just because Brian Elliott, I know he's not a good goaltender, and if Vasilevsky, though, doesn't get injured, because a lot of these guys, I feel like on Tampa, might also get a little bit tired in this first round because of how much hockey they've played over the last 3 years. So I feel like that's another thing that could help out the Leafs, is these guys getting tired, a lot of them that have been there for the last however long. Because like Stamkos, Kucherov, Point, and like etc. Hedman, those guys are all probably really tired now because they've played literally like 3 straight years of going to the finals. This year, if they go to the finals again, their legs are just going to be like completely dead. Like, I know they're trained athletes and whatnot, but they got to be a little bit of exhausted for playing all these extra games, especially Vasilevsky, considering goaltending is not an easy job. So that's also another reason why I choose the Leafs on this run. Power play percentage, also Toronto was a little bit better, and penalty kill, Toronto was a little bit better. Leading scorer, William Nylander to Braden Point. That's interesting. I didn't realize William Nylander led Toronto in goals. I think he had like a 40-goal season, and then Point obviously had his 50-goal season. So, yeah, we're going to go with Toronto on this one, which makes for an interesting second round. Obviously, Boston and Toronto, which obviously I think I know what I'm going to choose on that one, but that's still an interesting one, though. Flashbacks of when the Leafs blew that lead. Islanders and Carolina. This is an interesting series as well. Carolina, I think, might have the upper hand, obviously, since they were a really good team, battled through a lot of injuries, like Svechnikov is out for the year, that type of thing. So I feel like Carolina is definitely a safe pick there. But the Islanders are a team that they play really good defensive structure. They also could hit because Cal Clutterbuck and whatnot. So we'll see what happens with that. They also brought in Bo Horvat, obviously, and Horvat hasn't played in the playoffs in a little bit, I think. Was Vancouver in the playoffs last year or not? I don't even remember. I don't think so. So it's been a little bit since Bo Horvat's been in the playoffs, so we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, big point gap. sort of big goals per game gap. Like Carolina's really good offensively. Goals against, also Carolina has the advantage. Power play percentage, yeah, everything's in Carolina's favor on this front. It's the Battle of the Sebastian Ahos. That's kind of funny. So for the Battle of the Sebastian Ahos, yeah, I'm going to go with the Carolina Hurricanes on this one. I also do really like the depth that Carolina has on their defensive core, like bringing in Gostisbehere. Like, I think they're using Brady Shea as like a top 6 defender, maybe a top 4 since he's got so many goals. But I feel like their blue line is really built for a playoff run, so I do like them a little bit. Rangers and Devils. This is going to be a really interesting series. Throwback to like the 1990s when these two teams played each other. I think like the Stefan Matteau goal and all that when I see these two teams. This is a series that I feel like is going to be probably tough to predict because there's a lot of good youth players on the Devils and in... Oh my goodness. So it seems like the bracket is having some issues, so if I lose this again, I will have to restart it again. But anyways, what I was saying before the game, the thing randomly just cut me out, is these two teams are like, it's a really tough series probably to predict. New Jersey has the home ice advantage, but the Rangers have a lot of experience on their team. New Jersey's kind of the young team that has not really been in the playoffs with a lot of these young guys, but I do really like the Devils in that sense. It was a 4-point gap, very close in goals per game, close in goals against, power plays were close, penalty kills were somewhat close as well, so I feel like I should go with probably... I feel like the Devils maybe, but almost in a sense though too because of the veteran experience of the Rangers, the goaltending of the Rangers. Like if Igor Shesterkin plays like as good as he did, I feel like the Rangers could beat the Devils easily. But also the young talent like Jack Hughes was fantastic this year. So I'm going to go with the Rangers on this, but I honestly think the Devils can win this as well. So I'm going to go with the Rangers. And now I have to bet how much games for this Eastern Conference. So Boston's going to win against Florida, I feel like, pretty easily. I'm going to go with... I'm going to still go with 6 games, though, just to play it safe. I don't feel like 5 games is enough, because I feel like Florida can win in home ice, obviously. And they do score goals in bunches, so I feel like they can win maybe a couple games if they could get to Boston's defense, but I say 6 games on that. Toronto and Tampa, I'm going to just say 7 games to play it safe because I feel like both these teams definitely will have a back and forth for quite a little bit of time. Carolina and the Islanders, I'm going to say this series as well in 6 games. I never like to say 4 or 5 unless it's an easy call. So, and then the Devils and the Rangers, I think the series will probably go to 6 games as well. I don't know if I see it going to 7. It could go to 7, but I'm going to go with 6. So there's our predictions for the Eastern Conference. Now let's get into the Western Conference. So we have Colorado and Seattle. This one I'm going to be going with probably Colorado, but Seattle had such great depth scoring this year, and that makes it a little bit of a scare. And Colorado's goaltending and stuff like that isn't as strong as it was in years past. It is still good, and obviously they battled through injuries a lot this year and still won a bunch of games. So now that they're pretty much healthy except for Landeskog, I think this is a good chance that Colorado could still win this. But I do like the Kraken a bit because of their depth scoring, because it's just crazy what they did in this second season of theirs. I think I'm going to go with Colorado on this just to play it safe, but I do think the Kraken can win maybe a couple games in this series, like 1 or 2. Dallas and Minnesota. This is one I don't really know too much about. Minnesota had more points, goals for per game. Dallas... I think I got to go with Dallas on this, just because Jason Robertson's kind of an insane guy. But it's definitely going to be a close series, I think. But Dallas is much better offensively than Minnesota. Minnesota's a team that could suffocate teams, because like guys like Gustafsson that's been in net and Fleury have been a lot better. So yeah, I think Dallas's offense is going to be able to beat Minnesota's defensive style. So let's go with Dallas on that. Then we have Vegas and the Jets. This one is kind of an interesting one as well. I don't really know too much about a lot of these Western Conference matchups. Yeah, probably Vegas, I'm thinking. But I do like the Jets. They are built for the playoffs in a sense. They do also have probably the better starting goaltender. So, I'm going to say, I feel like I'm going to go with my gut here. I'm going to go with the Jets. That might be a little bit of a controversial one, but I'm going to go with the Jets. And yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, it's also Eichel's first ever playoff run, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see what Vegas does. And in Edmonton and LA, I am going to be going with Edmonton, but LA, I just feel like LA has a good chance also winning a series because they do have like Kempe, who had I think 40 goals a season. So there's a lot of kind of underrated players there and a lot of good young guys that are starting to make headways. They still got the veteran guys also like Kopitar and Doughty, so it might be a bit of a closer series than we would think. So yeah, Colorado and Seattle, I say this goes to 5. I don't normally choose that, but I think the Kraken, the lack of experience on their roster might play a factor a little bit. Even though some guys on their team, I guess, have gone far in the playoffs, like Jaden Schwartz. But yeah, Dallas and Minnesota, I'm going to say this series goes to 7 games just because I feel like it's probably closer than it actually looks. Minnesota should be able to suffocate Dallas's offense for a few games, but also Dallas has definitely the offensive weapons like Robertson. The Jets in Vegas, I also see this going to 7 games just because I think both these teams could easily win games against each other. It's just about who's going to actually win in Game 7. And in Edmonton and LA, I'd say this series goes to 6 games because I think the LA Kings do have it in them to win some games, but also I want to trust in Edmonton this year. I think Edmonton has taken a step up this year because obviously Connor McDavid had his insane season, right? But also Ryan Nugent-Hopkins hit 100 points. I think I saw Leon Draisaitl obviously had over 100 points. Like, you had a lot of good players like step up. Hyman had a great year, I'm pretty sure too. So, and who knows, Matthias Ekholm might be able to help shut things down on the blue lines. So I'm gonna go with Edmonton in 6 games, and that's gonna be my Western Conference predictions to start off with. So that's round 1. Now we got to get into round number 2. So Colorado and Dallas. We'll start with the West again. I'm gonna say let's do a look at. Wow. Okay, that's actually pretty close. They both had the exact same amount of points. Apparently, goals per game. Dallas was a little bit better. Goals against per game were the exact same. Power play percentages are close. The penalty kills in Dallas's favor. Dallas is built all around. It seems like. I'm going to go with Dallas on this one. You know, I do love Colorado. Colorado might be one of my favorite teams. I am going to go with the Dallas Stars. I think they have a good team based on those stats compared to Colorado's. I think they could basically do anything and win games. So I'm going to go with Dallas on that. I do like that team. Also, it'd be cool to see Pavelski get far in the playoffs again. Jets and Oilers, the Canadian battle. Ooh, this one will be interesting. Let's take a look at this. Goals per game obviously goes to Edmonton. Defense still goes to the Jets. Power play way better for the Oilers. Yeah, that power play was historically good too. So, but that penalty kill is much better than the Jets. I'm gonna go with the Oilers on this, but I think the Jets definitely have a chance. Because I can see Connor McDavid willpowering this team to a conference finals this year. Because his insane season was really nuts. Boston and Toronto. Let's take a look at the comparisons. Yeah, pretty much Boston's just better at everything. Once again, I'm going to probably say Boston on this just because it's probably the safe pick. No offense to Toronto fans. This is not just me being biased and hating against the Leafs. I did have you guys beat in the first round at least for the first time in 20 years or whatever it's been. But honestly, Boston's had a historic season. They definitely should be at least getting to the conference finals this year. If they don't get to the finals, that's a big problem for them, considering a lot of their guys on their team are up there in age. So, and then the Rangers in Carolina. This is another interesting series. I believe they played each other last year in the playoffs, didn't they? I think so. Looks like Carolina's definitely the better defensive team. They're close offensively. I'm gonna go with the Carolina Hurricanes on this one. I think Carolina definitely has the team and the coach as well. Igor Shesterkin could probably get the Rangers quite a few wins in this series, but I would say Carolina is going to win this as well. So then your final 4 would be Dallas and Edmonton, Boston, and Carolina. We'll start off with the East this time around. Boston and Carolina. I'm more than likely going to say, it crashed again. I will reload this and get this up in a sec. Okay, we finally got it back to where we were at. It's kind of annoying that this crashes all the time. But anyways, let's start off with the Eastern Conference. So Boston and Carolina. I'm going to be going with Boston on this. Just because Boston should be built enough to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. But Carolina could easily be in the finals this year too. Let's go with the Boston Bruins. They had a great year. I think they could have a great year in the playoffs as well. And then in the West, Dallas and Edmonton. I got to give it to Edmonton, to be honest. I don't really like that penalty kill number, but I got to give it to Edmonton. Dallas is built enough to get to the finals, I think, too. But Boston and Edmonton is my prediction for the final. And then winning the Stanley Cup, this would actually be probably close, unless Edmonton just plays terrible defensively. I'm going to say Boston wins this. Connor McDavid gets to his first Cup finals, and then that gets him hungry for more in the next few years. But I think, to be honest, I feel like Boston wins the Cup in this year, just because they've had such a great year all together, and I feel like if these two do meet against each other in the finals, I think obviously that penalty kill number, that goals against number, Edmonton probably won't be able to do well against that. So I'm going to go with Boston on this to win the Stanley Cup in 2023. I'm not a huge fan of Boston either, so it's kind of weird for me to say that. And total goals scored in the final series. Well, Boston suffocates teams, but they're good offensively too. Edmonton's a good offensive team, so it'd probably be quite a few goals. I feel like this series could go to 6 or 7 games. So if we're looking at, like, let's say 6 goals at least a game. Let's say maybe 42 goals at least. Or let's go with 41 just to make it for Craig Anderson, because why not? And yeah, that will be our playoff bracket. So I have Boston beating Edmonton for the Stanley Cup. So let's submit that. And there's my picks. Okay, so my bracket is set. That should be good. There we go. So there's my bracket. I probably will create a league as well and link into the description so you guys could join that. And my bracket will be in there and you guys could add your bracket to it as well. I don't know what I'm going to call it though, so I will probably end up doing that after the end of this video. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously, I haven't done one of these in ever, I don't think, on YouTube, so I just wanted to do something a little bit different, give you guys my thoughts on stuff like that. Most of these type of predictions were just mostly gut feeling. Some of the stats that we saw helped dictate that in a sense too, but I honestly think this could be a pretty solid Stanley Cup Finals for 2023 if it is to happen. So let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.